So, Lindsey Travis,
How we doing?
thanks for coming on Strong Like Bull. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Happy to be here.
All right. So, as always, we dig into three sections: the origin story, the jump, and then the lesson. You try to teach me something new.
All right.
So, we'll just jump right in, and then I'll have a ton of questions, I'm sure. So, start with your earliest memory, and you can keep it relevant to entrepreneurialism. Yeah. What's the first thing you remember?
Oh man, this could definitely, I feel like, turn into a therapy session. Yeah. But earliest memory, which is gonna be interesting because I feel like I'm gonna start linking things together. But I would have to say I was about 2 years old. I mean, how old are you when you're still like in a
You're walking at one.
okay, walking at one? So I was very much in a crib. My parents at the time lived in, like, Diamond Bar, California, but that was kind of the first house that I remember, but I was in my bedroom and I'm, like, standing on a crib, so maybe walking, but, like, kind of just, like, standing, holding on, and I'm, like, looking out the door to my bedroom, and all I see is just my mom walking out and me, like, literally trying to call for her, crying, and she is just walking out. She's leaving. And
Your mom?
my mom, yes. And it was kind of this, like, feeling of abandonment, which is kind of a natural reaction, I would assume, but full-fledged first memory, and it just kinda cuts out after that. And from there, it's always interesting because you, like, 3 decades later, right, just kind of start unwinding why you are the way you are. But my mom and I have a very loving relationship, but
Today you do?
yeah, not as close as I would like, but still really close with my sister's family. I mean, at least, like, once a week check-ins, family gatherings, all that good stuff. But, there are some things that happen throughout life that I think, I still might resent, which I think everyone kinda works through. But, yeah, that would be the first one, for sure.
So I tell my kids that there's two ways to react to any situation. Not that you could control this as a baby, but you can be mad or you can be sad. So you either use the situation or the situation will use you. If you get mad, you get a chip on your shoulder, you get motivated, you take action. If you get sad, then the situation will crush you. So how do you think that you handle that situation today? Is it a chip on your shoulder or is it just like a weight that kind of drags you down that you're disappointed that it's that way?
Man, I thought my mom was gonna watch this, but now I don't know. Um, I think honestly both. There is quite a bit of, I think, sadness there plus resentment. And that resentment I think kind of carries out through some things like later in like teenage years that like I still didn't think was a thing at all. I'm like, no way, we're like totally past this, right? And there have been like a few things I think now that I'm married, my husband and I have been married for almost like 4 years now, that he's seeing patterns and he's like, wow, you like clearly still seem like you're holding on to things on that end. And I mean, I don't want to touch on kind of the mom issues from
Sure.
my entire life so too much, but I mean, in my college, I was getting shipped off to college, right? And I very much it's one of my biggest resentments that I actually not resentments, but one of the biggest things that I regret of my own. I was straight A student in college, I mean in high school, I'm sorry. And I just decided that I wasn't gonna study for my SATs, right? And I was living the high life at the time and, like, partying and, like, this guy I was dating at the time was just, like, the one. I was head over heels, and I had my SATs on Saturday, and I decided to really kind of party the night before, and obviously did not do well on my SATs. I thought at the time that I was gonna be getting a full-fledged scholarship at Pepperdine for track and field, and unfortunately, my test scores needed to be a certain level, and they weren't. So last minute, I was scrambling, and then I got into San Francisco State, and not by choice. that I went up there for my first few years, and my mom had written me a letter that just like I was moving into college, and she was just like, "These are all the things that you're doing wrong in life." And this letter was not a loving letter. It was very much like shipping me off, like
Maybe it was tough love.
it was very much tough love. And again, it was just more of like kind of a resentment thing that I think I just continued to hold on to.
What kind of before like high school, or maybe even in high
Mhm.
school? What kind of kid were you? Were you the kid that? So if I went back and asked other kids' parents, "Hey, what kind of kid was Lindsay? Was she the one like, hey, stay away from that one, or is it, hey, you should hang out with Lindsay more?
I was very much a tomboy, 100%. Total jokester. I like literally would play pranks like constantly. And now that I think about it, it's just I think it's hilarious because it was very much almost like this like playful spirit
Hmm.
that I actually like now really like about myself.
Was it like innocent, or was it
Oh yeah,
you're a
total
troublemaker?
total innocent. So my initials now that I'm married, so Lindsay Travis, LT, which is so funny because my nickname when I was little was LT, Little Trouble. Like total just prankster, but always so good in school, like straight A's. But I was a worry wart. I remember being like 3, 5 years old and like prepping everything for school the next day, like homework. What am I wearing? Like just all these things, just so wound up.
Where do you think that came from?
Oh my God.
Like, was your dad strict or your mom strict that, hey, we don't allow bees in this house type of thing? Or
I just felt like no one was really in control. Like, does that make sense? Like, I just kind of felt like
I'm curious, like, where the motivation came to be a straight A student. You seem very proud of that, which you should be.
it was
But I
definitely
wonder,
validation.
yeah, okay. So you were seeking that, I guess.
Oh yeah,
That was an
100%.
area that you could shine.
100%. I think being the third of 3 girls, 2 older sisters, um, my both parents worked at the time, like, before the age of 7, I would say my parents were doing fairly well. Um, but their time and attention span and bandwidth was elsewhere, 100%. We had a live-in nanny at the time, and it was very much you had to kind of seek attention elsewhere. And a lot of the attention was going to my sisters, which where they were going to tap and dance and doing like equestrian, like riding and stuff like that. And I was still too small enough to do it, but we're taking them back and forth, back and forth. And I would kind of jump in the car and just kind of follow along without really participating in anything because I was too young from what I remember, which no resentment here, if you can tell. But
But you guys grew up with a little bit of money,
I would say
is
before
my
my parents got
assumption. If you guys are
divorced.
riding horses and you have a
Oh,
live-in
yeah.
nanny, like you guys are doing okay, right?
Before my parents got divorced, 100%. And then it got
What
yeah.
do your parents do? What did they do?
So at the time, my mom actually did, like, medical billing for a lot of doctors, surgeons, dermatologists, etcetera, so medical billing. But at the time, it was, like, early '90s, and it was before it was, like, really getting outsourced to insurance companies, which now insurance companies, like, completely have taken over that whole
That's how they make their money now.
I'm sorry?
That's how they make their money now. I'm in that
Exactly.
space.
Nice. Yeah, so it was I mean, my mom was actually the breadwinner, I think, at that time, and then my dad now, it's always so funny, I always ask my dad, I'm like, "What do you do?" But he's actually a consultant for working with a lot of hospitals still to this day on really making, I guess, the hospitals incredibly efficient. So, coming through and creating systems and implementations on kind of like the way the entire hospitals are functioning, right? So currently, I mean, I believe he's on a contract for like Northwestern, but he'll come in and kind of just like clean house, optimize with new systems, etc. But yeah, both still kind of working in the medical field.
It's interesting. Yeah, I actually own a bill review company, medical
Interesting.
bill review. It's called Bill Guard.
Oh, very cool.
Um, and then my wife is a risk manager for a construction company. and they just had somebody like your pops come
Mhm.
in and totally clean house. Consultant came in, like, laid off a ton of people.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, he's very good at what he does, very well known in the industry, but yeah, they've had kind of different paths, I think, throughout, obviously,
Are they still both
growing up.
local?
So my dad actually lives in Phoenix, Arizona, and my mom is still in Diamond Bar, California. So
And you are in,
I live in Hermosa Beach, California.
which is like LA, Long Beach
I
area,
mean,
right?
it's
North of Long Beach, LA
technically
County,
LA, but
southernmost tip of LA County.
we are just in our own bubble. We're in our own worlds in the South Bay. So
You don't claim LA, you don't claim
I
Orange County?
mean, it is LA, but if you're living in the South Bay, it's because you know that you're living in the right part of LA.
Gotcha. Yeah. I don't know if I could do LA. Okay, so what was your first job?
First job.
First job, any job.
Oh my God. Ok. Um, both, excuse me, both sisters were incredible swimmers. And so they grew up. I mean, my sister, oldest sister, got like her Olympic trial cuts, and so there's a aquatics facility in Fullerton, California. It was called FAST, but it's a club. Um, yeah, it's a private like swimming club, but a lot of these athletes end up getting like D1 scholarships. They end up going to the Olympics, etc. And so the head coach at the time was Kevin Perry, who has now passed away. And he was essentially asked to be like the men's Olympic head coach. I think this was back in like 2012. Right. So just very established facility. And my very first job was during the summers. I think I was like 15, 16 years old, and I was doing the kids like swim club registrations for like the summertime and like signing up like little ones anywhere from like 2 years old to like 10 years old just for like little swim programs, but that was kind of the first job.
Like move out,
College.
college.
Yeah, so
So
circling back to
what was
the
your first job outside of home? 'Cause I assume whenever you were doing the swim thing, you were still
Mhm.
living with your roommates.
Exactly. So first job, so that would be college. That was gonna be my first 2 years of college when I was at San Francisco State, and that was before I transferred.
Where did you transfer to?
USC.
Okay.
Yeah. So, it wasn't the worst move, right? I mean, I had to regroup from completely just, obliterating my SAT scores and going through that whole thing, but it was for a PR firm called Graham& and Associates in San Francisco, and I absolutely loved it. It was kind of just like girl in the big city type thing. I was, like, going and taking public transit in San Francisco, and I feel like it was, like, during, like, San Francisco's, like, heyday, right? Where, like, 2000 what was it? 2008, 2009, like, right when, like, tech started, like, really booming.
Mhm.
But San Francisco was so fun, and I was just absolutely loving it. I felt like this, like, slight sense of, like, independence, even though it was, like, an internship, like, an unpaid internship, but it was, like, in an established office, and they were, like, representing incredible brands, and it happened to be just, like, one of the, like, coolest alleyways near Times Square.
Mhm.
So I'd always just kind of, like, pass by, like, all the shopping and just you just kinda, like, start visualizing. You're like, "Oh my god, when I'm working and kinda doing my own thing, like, this is the life I want. I wanna, like, do the corporate job and just, like,
Sure.
have the money to buy the things," and it was really fun.
Do you still feel like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Except now
Well,
it's more so trying to figure out how to do it on your own, right? And, I mean, we've definitely I feel like the dream has always been there. It's just now actually evolving and then being very dependent on myself. So,
do you feel like you picked up anything in the PR firm? Do you know where the term public relations comes from?
I have no idea.
So it was a guy named Edward Bernays, and he was born in 1890. And in 1921, he he was a consultant, and he got a job from pork this pork distributor, and they said, "Hey, we need to sell more bacon," because before then, bacon was like a snack type of food. Yeah, and he's like, "Okay," so he went to this doctor, a buddy of his, and he said, "I need you to say that bacon is expert approved or doctor approved." And so he got that testimonial. And so then he put out these ads, and essentially he put out this campaign saying that a hearty breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and bacon is expert approved or doctor approved of being part of a hearty breakfast. So since 1921, bacon has been a staple for our breakfast in the United States. And then he got a couple jobs with the government, spreading propaganda. Took over or overthrew a dictator in Chile because of a campaign he put together. He's the reason that so many women used to smoke, because he put together the campaigns of Virginia Slims, and so it used to be called propaganda, but he thought it was like too hard on the tongue. Propaganda, it's an evil word, it's a mean word, it's just
Wow.
hard sounding, right? And so he invented the phrase public relations because it sounds a lot more
I mean, he's
nice.
not wrong. So he's clearly very good at what he does.
Well, he's not around anymore. Yeah. And
That's so random, though.
yeah, yeah, it's a fun fact. But yeah, anyways, he invented the term public relations, and he's actually the nephew, I want to say, or grandchild of Sigmund Freud. Anyways, yeah,
Too bad he wasn't
random.
around during the keto days. He would
I
have
know, right?
crushed.
But yeah, anytime I hear public relations or PR, I just think propaganda.
You're
So
still not wrong. I think it's still very much same, just different.
yeah. Anyways, yeah, he really shaped a lot of things. He did stuff like ivory soap. There's a reason that we use soap bars. Yeah, he had a lot of. He's like the biggest impact with the smallest recognition American that I've ever heard of. That he did more, where there's like a alpha or a delta between how many people know him and how big of an impact he had on stuff that
Interesting.
we still do today. Okay, so
Yeah.
how long were you at the PR firm?
It was like an internship. It was like a year.
Okay. So what about like the first job you needed to pay rent?
All
What
right.
was after that?
So
Like what?
now, so I was a student athlete through college. So I ran track. So it was very much kind of balancing like schedule of running and then obviously deciding to work. I mean, I was very much that kid that like, I mean, I started running club track when I was in second grade, and which is wild because I mean, it got me into, I mean, very much partial scholarships and then transitioning from San Francisco State to USC. So definitely was able to leverage being an athlete tremendously. I was a walk on, and literally the second I got into that school, I was like, I am out. I am so tapped out, but it did get me into school. So redshirted my first year and then decided I was like, okay, if I'm like not running anymore, I'm going to work for the athletic department. So decided to work for USC's athletic marketing. So it was
What
really
was it
kind of,
about running that you liked?
what did
I
I not like about
No,
it?
what did you like? Because I played baseball, basketball, football growing up, then
Yeah.
baseball in college, all throughout college, a little bit after, and it was always a punishment my whole life. Right? We
Mhm.
get in trouble in those sports, you have to run.
Yeah.
And so like today, I absolutely, unless I have to, like I see a little, flub or something, like I gotta go run. Like, I no way I could do it for fun.
Gotcha.
What did you like it about
Yeah.
running? Like that
So
runner's high or what?
it's so funny because I feel like this goes back to like when my sisters were like elite swimmers, and my mom was like, "All right, you're gonna swim," and I absolutely hated it. I was just like I was good at it, but I'm just like it was not my thing, and I was like, "Anything but that." And so then I ended up playing, like, basketball and track, and I think with running, it, like when I started going club, I realized that there's other things to do other than just, like, doing the 400, the 800, the 1,500 sprints, and so I got really into the field events, and so I ended up, I was actually pretty good at high jump, long jump, triple jump.
I'm not shot put or
I yeah,
javelin or hammer throw.
definitely not on the shot put, or the upper body strength was still not there, um, but yeah, I mean, I got pretty long legs, but also too, I think just with like, kind of decently tall at that age, but
Yeah,
yeah,
high jump would be fun, I think.
that was my jam, and so I was really good, I think, for being in, like, high school and
What's
then
the one where you have, like, the
decently
long stick and you, like, put
pole
it into
vault,
the pole vault?
yeah.
Did you
I
ever
don't
do
think
that?
I did not do pole I wish they allowed us to do pole vault. There were definitely other clubs that did, but yeah, I was on the Brea Track Club, but yeah, it was just burned out, I think, by the time I got to college, but I still love running. I just hate really that, like, sense of feeling like I'm competing. I just get, like, PTSD anytime I, like, walk around a track, but, I still love long distance. I did my first marathon in, like, 2023. I'm sorry, I was 23 at the time, but I
Yeah,
still
see,
love
like
it. I
that,
I
I
do
couldn't
get
do
the
that.
runner's high thing, though.
Really?
It is a real thing, yeah. You're just, like you're so clear-minded, and you're not thinking about anything else. Like, it's so interesting. You're, like, literally just thinking on your, like, breath and actually just, like, the energy output and where you're going. You're not thinking about, "What do I have to do? What's on the to-do list?" And even when you do start thinking about that, I feel like just, like, the energy transfer of just kind of breaking through kind of those thought patterns actually, like, really kinda gets you, like, clear-minded. Or maybe that's just me.
No, I can go along with that.
Yeah.
Maybe I've experienced that once or twice, but
Like, I'm too focused on being tired right now to even, like, think about the stressors of, like, day-to-day life, and you're like, from that, it's actually a break, but
yeah, okay, I can go along with that.
okay.
Okay, so sorry, back to your jobs.
Oh, yeah. So, the athletics department was really fun.
What about after college? Like, as an adult?
Yeah. So, after college, let's see, what did I do? I worked, for a staging and production company that built and manufactured staging equipment for artists and musicians. So it was all modular, custom designed equipment for like huge artists like Rihanna, Jay-Z, Kanye West, etc. And so they specifically built out their like touring gear, right? Because it has to collapse down, it has to go in semis, it has to travel, right? So they would build out these custom sets. They would also do just like a ton for like Coachella and a lot of the staging equipment there. So yeah, that was kind of my first job. I was helping on, like, the marketing side. I mean, in that industry, marketing wasn't really a thing, like, their website was just horrible, but they did a lot on the rental side, right? So, for any kind of, like, large scale events, award show production that is needing to do a lot of kind of these rentals for events, I was helping more so on, like, the marketing side there. And then after that, I worked for a company called SBE, which is Foley Hospitality. So they own a bunch of hotels and restaurants and nightlife. They're in LA. They're kind of like known for having a bunch of just nightclubs in LA. And I was on the nightlife team.
Yeah, you're on the nightlife
And
tour.
I was very much in my 20s. I just very much had my LA experience, got it out of my system, but we were just helping with, doing a lot of nightlife openings. So on the marketing side. So really having kind of these like 6-month ramp ups for essentially openings. So I helped open Doheny Room, which for anyone that's familiar with, the LA area is, I think, still very much a scene, and then, like, Nightingale, which I believe is now a new nightclub that they're finally renovating. But, yeah, we did a lot of events there. So, really much catering to the client's needs, whether it was for, like, award show after parties or just celebrity birthdays, and it was it was fun. So, that was kind of, like, the ramp up into my late 20s, and then from there, really segued into working for the LA Rams. And then that was when the LA Rams had decided to move from St. Louis, right, back to LA here, so it was, like, the big, like, SoFi Stadium development project. So this was gonna be, like, and it still is, the biggest, like, multi-billion dollar development in all of the US, right, for this scale of, a development. I believe it's still from, like, the stats that I remember, like, 350 acres, but that was the job that I feel like changed kind of, like, my life and outlook, which I still very much appreciate because it was the first time I was actually making, like, real money.
Okay.
And
Which is like what? Like six figures
oh,
or
yeah,
okay.
definitely good into the six figures, but that's kind of where, like, you start realizing that, like, sales is
Uh,
where it's at. Very much high risk, but if you're good at what you do, you're like, "Wow, this is stressful because I don't know what's happening next month," but also, like, high risk, high reward. And when you catch a wave, you're just like, "Oh my god, this is incredible. This is amazing."
better than that runner's high.
I mean, yes, I will say I agree with you on that. Definitely better than the runner's high. So that was kind of when I was like in my late 20s. I'd broken up from just like a long term relationship. And I was like, wow, this is the first time that I'm truly on my own, doing things for myself, making big decisions on my own, which I don't think was ever really the case prior to kind of like 27. I was always in like long term relationships with like older guys. And yeah, it was like the first time I was like really having fun.
Okay. Well, it looks like we found the trigger. You know, you have some success in sales. Maybe that's what led to you being an entrepreneur. Okay, so tell me about um when you decided to make the jump to go into business uh with what you do now.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the time, I would think it was, I had already been working on the SoFi development project for about 4 or 5 years. We had our first Super Bowl, which was incredible. So did a lot there. And then COVID happens.
Yeah, okay, so this was like 2019 to 2020, right?
Yeah. So um now we're in 2020, and it was wild. I think most people don't realize that for that project, I mean, we were scaling up like 6 years in the making, right? I mean, it was a huge project, and there was so much partnerships, sponsorships, sales. I mean, people were spending for what I was selling. I mean, one seat would cost anywhere in a single seat, anywheres from like 15,000 up to like 300,000 per seat. Right? And so not cheap, and there were so many people that had invested a ton of time and money, and then obviously the folks that were kind of buying into, right, the stadium. And then our grand opening year was supposed to be like August 2020 with preseason, and now we're in March 2020, and like sports became completely non-existent. Like everything shut down. Like basketball stopped, no one really knew kind of what was going on. It was the first time it happened, right? So we were
Especially in California.
oh, yeah, yeah, especially in California. And this was kind of like where like the first 2 weeks, I think, with everyone's job. So, like, right? They're like, "Oh, yeah, this is short term. We're working from home." And then it just, like, started extending out. But my job at the time, sales, if you're not selling, you're not making money. So, kind of an issue. And at the time, my husband and I, well, at the time we were engaged. So we were planning our wedding. And it was one of those things that I just knew at the time, like, especially being a woman, Eventually if you do want kids, right? What does that next like phase look like? And at the time, I was very much already starting to prep my mindset and kind of the steps needed to take, right? It's going to like I either start something now or I start something 5 years from now. Either way, it's going to suck. But I knew for myself that I wanted to always have something of my own and I'm not going to be working for someone forever. Right, like, I just knew that for myself. Like, I didn't want to be reliant or dependent on an employer eventually, so I need to set the groundwork. And I was like, "All right, what better time than starting now? Working from home, I can, like, start something." So I decided that I really was gonna go into either real estate, and I'm like, "Okay, I can get my real estate license," which still wouldn't be have been the worst thing, especially during that time. Or I could have, like, totally righted that wave, but that didn't happen. Or I could start an online business. And so I think with just, like, my background in marketing, kind of my previous years in my 20s, I was very much kind of, like, self-taught on a lot of, like, the digital marketing aspect and creative or graphic design, right? And this is, uh where I just, like, really liked it. I loved coming up with just, like, new concepts and design and really just, like, creating.
So whenever you were considering this,
Mhm.
you don't have to disclose too much, obviously, but did you have like a big nest egg, or
Yep.
were you reliant on your spouse to, because starting your own business is that you're putting all the chips in the middle of the table.
Yeah, mhm.
And you can either do it as a side hustle, or you do it as, you're still living with mom and dad, you don't pay rent, or you have a spouse that can financially support while you risk everything. Like it's a good matchup. What was your situation like? If you're gonna, I'm gonna start an online business, like, okay, but like, how are you getting health insurance? How, are you eating? How are you paying rent? How are, all these things happening? The bills don't stop, even though you are risking everything. Like, you don't have that guaranteed income anymore. So,
So funny. I've never thought of this, great question, but also I was not prepared at all financially. I went into this so blindly. Knew kind of the costs associated with it, but I was like, "I'll just make it up in commissions." Like, I'm not I was which is so funny because I had this, like, I guess, level of certainty without really knowing, essentially month to month, what was actually going to happen, but I knew I had to do it. And so I did pull credit cards to really start this, and it was funny too because I wanted to do this online program. And I told my husband, I was like, "It's $2,000. It's gonna teach me how to, like, build my own e-commerce, like, business and all that type of stuff. Like, should I make the investment?" And at the time, I was still kind of trying to save because I wasn't making that much money because I wasn't selling really. I forget what had happened, but he had somehow gotten paid 2,000 where he wasn't expecting it. He's like, "Here, buy the course, do the thing, like, I wasn't expecting to, like, get this, so, like, just do it." And he was so supportive in getting me to just, like, start and learn this, and I took it so seriously. And at the time, my husband was a LA County firefighter paramedic, so I don't know if anyone really understands their schedules, but he wasn't home 3 to 4 days a week. So I was actually focused so much, like, I had a lot of time to
what is it,
really
like
kind of
2 on, 1 off, or 3 on, 1 off? How are their schedules?
well, this was also during COVID. So, I mean, he was gone for sometimes 6 days a week because they have what are referred to as, like, getting recalled, where you're essentially forced to come in. And, I mean, he was obviously making overtime, but I don't think most people realize that, like, how exhausting it is and, like, every single day of their life is the worst day of someone else's life. And imagine just holding all that trauma from your day to day, then not sleeping because you're on a 24-hour shift and you're getting called in the middle of the night, and then you're doing it for 6 days a week. So imagine just like not sleeping 6 days at a time, 5 days at a time, and then coming home. I mean, anytime he was home, he just wanted to sleep and then kinda catch up.
So what was this class that you took?
So the class that I took, it was just an online course. It was gold for me at the time because knew nothing about this. And so it was very much just watching tutorials and then implementing what you know or what you learned. And so I just very much learned step by step. I had no idea what the heck I was actually doing. I think my first purchase order, by the time I actually was going through the steps of like learning how to source product, learning how to negotiate with suppliers, learning how to go over trademarks and creating your LLC and doing all the like initial things of starting an online business, but I was like doing it for the first time. So like every move was like just it felt so important. Right now I can like do this in my sleep. But my first purchase order I think was like September 2020 and I think it was like oh man, it had to been for maybe $10,000, which is like such a small purchase order now. Like it's wild, but that was like my first purchase order. And I was so excited. I started selling on Amazon. Like that was my thing. I was like, if I can really make the numbers work on Amazon with obviously the high fees and everything like that, that you can sell the product anywhere. Most people don't realize that like 51% of all like online sales customers go to Amazon first, right? So if you can like really make it there, then as you expand, golden.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, yeah, I feel like with the jump, I feel like maybe the stars aligned a little bit with COVID
Mhm.
happening, with your personality, meaning, I want to say this as delicately as
Go
I
for it.
can. You're thick skinned. You've been through some shit in your life.
I would agree.
And I think you had just the right amount of support and the right amount of naivete. Is that the right word? Naivete?
No, I think
You were
you're
just
spot on.
naive enough and you had just the right amount of support to where you weren't reliant on the support and you weren't not eating either,
Yeah.
right? And the naivete is you're just dumb enough to try it, right?
100%. I think that's your superpower at that point. Don't like I think once you've decided that you are going to do it, that amount of energy that, like, carries through will move mountains. Like, when you can actually have absolute certainty that you are going to do something, right, and really kind of just make that decision. It's very black and white, and you're just gonna do it. I think that most people make excuses for themselves, but you either want something or you don't. And I will say that being naive is 100% a superpower, and for me, I think my drive has always been financial. I'm very driven by financial success, mostly due to, I think, like, a few core wounds from, like, my parents' divorce and how that, like, split happened when I was around 7 years old, and then it was very much one parent had money, the other one did not,
Rich dad,
and
poor dad.
yeah, oh, it was wild. I was like I was living 2 lives, and I was still so young to where they had a very ugly divorce, and I felt like at my mom's house, I mean, we wouldn't have hot water, the electricity would go off because my mom couldn't pay the bill, we had to go in my cousin's house in the morning before school and, like, get ready and, like, "What is happening?" My mom would cry when she would go to the mailbox because of, like, receiving mail, and, like, I'm just so young, and I'm like, "What is happening?" And then I'd go to my dad's house, and it was like, "Let's go to Balboa Bay Club, kids, like, in Newport Beach, and check out the Ferrari dealership. Let's go on a shopping spree this weekend." And I was just so confused. I was like, "I know the lifestyle that I want, and I know exactly what I don't want. I never went without, but it was very complete polar opposites of, I think, growing up that, like, I knew that I had enough fuel to understand that you have to build a life that you want. No one is coming to save you. And, especially too, I think being just like a woman kind of like figuring this out as I go, like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I do have enough, like, fuel into the tank to get me to where I wanna go. So,
Yeah, yeah, I feel like the naivete is, like, just the absence of fear, right?
the fear still is there very much, and I think you can leverage fear to your benefit,
well,
but
here's my point, though, is that the absence of fear is equivalent to confidence. It's not the same, but it's equivalent. So, like, whenever I first got into sales, I too was naive. I didn't I actually I sold everything. So I Googled what's the most expensive thing to sell, and it was insurance. And then I Googled where is insurance the most expensive, and it was California. So I was in Indiana selling lawnmowers. I sold everything I had. I rented a car, packed a backpack with like 2 or 3 pairs of underwear and a couple shirts and then a couple pairs of shorts. I had no long sleeves, no pants, because I was coming to Southern California, 70 and sunny all year round. And so I drove here, no job, sleeping on the beach, brushing my teeth in a Taco Bell bathroom,
wow.
trying to find a job in insurance. And I finally got a job, and they gave me a phone and a phone book in an empty closet, and they said, "Make 300 calls a day." And my naivete, I wasn't confident. There's no way to be confident. I've never done this before, but I was naive enough to call anybody. I don't care how big the company was, how small the company was. I was calling everybody because I was ignorant. And that landed me a publicly traded account. We took over their insurance, and it was like just total game changer, right? But we had people that had been in the industry 10, 20 years. When I told them I got into this account, they're like, "What are you doing calling those accounts?" Like, they would never do it because their experience hurt them to where the inexperience or the, naive approach is I'll call anybody. I mean, and I think going into this e-commerce or taking this class or trying to start an Amazon business, you know, you're not you're not jaded by anything because you've never done this before.
It it was it's definitely something too, I think, like, when you finally just make that decision, right? I mean, you have nothing to lose. I mean, at the time well, for me at least, I mean
Well, if you would have talked to me before you did it, you probably wouldn't have done it because, like, I've been down this road a couple of
yeah.
times trying to start an Amazon business. I tried to outsource it to Fiverr, and then, we looked into, purchasing one for 50,000 and, these things like, yeah, it just never really worked out for me. And so I
And you're
had
not the
a
first. So
like,
many
oh, I bet
people were like, "There's no way that
there's
you're
a
going
whole
to
graveyard of people.
there's no way you're gonna do this." And they're like I would have friends be like, "Wait, so are you doing the drop shipping thing? Are you doing whatever?" I'm like, "No, I'm actually creating, like, my own product." And
Okay, so let's dig into that
yeah.
because this is where I think you can teach me something new, and I am one of those that tried and failed
Okay.
at this, all because of me, that I didn't I was totally ignorant about this space, and it was going to be a total side thing, and I had a million other things going on as well. But it
Yep.
was an arm that we were interested in starting at our private equity company. Like, hey, if these Amazon stores are like 50 grand
Mhm.
and the average, by month 3 you're getting 8,000 or whatever, the math that they kind of drew out for us. Let's drop a few hundred grand into this and see what happens. And so anyway, we ultimately didn't end up doing it. So then I tried the drop shipping stuff, and then I had somebody on Fiverr like create a store for me, and then I'm selling like fucking spoons and forks and kitchen stuff, and I'm like, I don't understand. I just never had a mentor, a teacher, or a guide, or a book, or anything to like walk me through the process here. So
Absolutely. That's so funny. And I think with people wanting to start online businesses, you cannot go an inch deep and a mile wide. One thing.
like one product or one
Pick
category.
one product within a category and literally own that product. There's so much to do just with a winning product, but also the brand and the concept needs to be refined. The one thing that starting a company when you're competing against a ton of Chinese manufacturers is you need to set yourself apart by the brand and the quality. So, which you can do even for very inexpensive products.
So you're not selling other people's stuff.
I am not selling other people's stuff. So my very first product, which is still my number one seller right now till this day, is a dog food mat. It
A
is
dog food
a
mat?
dog food mat.
Don't you feel just like so do you have a dog?
I do have a dog. I love my dog. And I am dog obsessed, which you will probably find out from the rest of our conversation here. Uh,
So you can relate to the product. You didn't just go off the math
and
or
I think it's incredibly important. I think some courses and gurus and people are like, oh, you can sell anything and like don't get too attached.
what's it called?
I think you should get attached to what you're selling and have some level of passion. So my dog's name is Nala. So the company is called Nala Laws.
Nala laws.
Nala Laws. I actually wanted Nala Law originally, but the domain was already secured, so I added an S, and so it became Nala Laws. So it's Nalalas. You can go to
All one word.
yeah, all one word. You can go to our Amazon storefront here. So
Waterproof dog food mat.
yeah. So when I first started, we had just gotten a dog, and I love just like home decor and everything like that. And I was taking the online course, and at the time there was only like silicone dog mats that were like black or gray. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to source recyclable rubber and put patterns on these dog food mats that are kind of like these bohemian, kind of just like creative, fun patterns. And I was the very first one kind of doing it. And yeah, there we go. So they're cool kind of just concepts. And again, it's a print file. So my cost of goods for a product like this, I mean, it's gone up over the last few years. Uh, landed was 315, $3.15. And I'm selling at a $24.99 price point. So even within like the Amazon's like 15% margin for your like fulfillment and FBA fees and everything like that, like I was still at around like a 44% profit margin. Um, not including advertising. At the time, I started off with one pattern and everyone thought I was crazy for the pattern that I was doing. We still sell it. It's the one with the palm leaves on it, almost like very California, Florida. Mhm.
That one?
That was our very first one, correct? Yep. And so I did that one because if anyone lives in LA or knows LA, it's kind of the same concept of like the Beverly Hills Hotel with like the banana leaf like wallpaper, and then also too with Doheny Room when I opened it, like the LA like palm leaf vibe was very much a thing. So that was kind of what I started with, and then I launched, and I sold nothing when I launched. Absolutely nothing. You're like, I just spent all this time, all this money, nothing.
Okay, hold on. Rewind. Okay, so you're selling this for 25 bucks.
Yes. Which was crazy at the time. All these like 9.99, 7.99
Sure.
dog food mats from China, and I'm like, no, I'm going to be a premium.
Okay, so you're selling this thing for $25. It are you stocking inventory?
Great question. So when you sell on Amazon,
Well, hold on, rewind. So because the reason I asked that, my book,
mhm,
self-published on Amazon. So somebody orders it, Amazon prints it, and then sends it off.
okay,
So I don't have boxes of books laying around or anything. Amazon prints it. They charge me $6 to print it. Then, but the margins are very different from what I'm hearing of the whole dog mat. Is Amazon keeps 60% and I get 40% after the $6 print and shipping charge. So
interesting.
like
We'll have to talk here.
so I sell for $21 or 20 bucks, and I don't know, I make $6 a book.
So you're not doing Amazon FBA.
I don't even know what that is.
Okay, so we're going to talk.
What's FBA?
So what we're going to do is find a supplier to actually print that exact book for you. We're not going to pay Amazon to do it for you. That's where you're losing your ass, right? We can find a supplier to do this so simply, right? You already have the print file. We're going to source the type of like bounding that you want or just like the cover, and it's going to be so much cheaper. We're just going to go direct to the source and get it from the supplier. Then we're going to get the inventory. From there, once we have the inventory and we have, like, our SKUs, we're then gonna put it in Amazon FBA. So we're still shipping it to Amazon's warehouse, but this is where you're doing two-day Prime, and you're actually just selling it like a normal product. Same way that I'm, like, selling it my dog mats. We're just kinda taking an extra step, and instead of making things easy and like, paying Amazon to do it for us, which is costing us more money, we're gonna source the supplier on our own.
Okay, and then but how much does Amazon take at that point?
So Amazon takes 15%.
Oh, well, that's better than 60.
Correct. Right? So Amazon's gonna take now
But is it more
15%.
expensive to source it elsewhere?
No. Who do you think Amazon's getting it from? They're getting it from the same supplier. You're just going directly to the
Honestly,
source.
I thought that they just have a printer
Well,
there
I'm
in the
sure they
warehouse.
do, but again, they're either doing it, you're either paying Amazon to do it, or you're gonna just figure out logistically the supplier that can also do the same thing way cheaper.
Well, the printing and shipping, I don't think is the issue. That's the $6. I don't mind the $6.
Mhm.
It's the 60% commission
Yeah. So
that
we're just
they
gonna sell it
take.
through FBA.
Okay, I trust you. Okay, so $3, that's what you're sourcing it for.
15, yep.
And
And
that is landed at your front doorstep.
yep, so, I think my first order, I think was 2,000 units. Um, so once you order from your supplier, right, you have everything barcoded, and then you do an Amazon shipping plan, right? So you have your the shipping label, and then we have an Amazon FBA label, which means when you ship it to Amazon, it's a warehouse, it gets checked in. Now anyone that's essentially purchasing the product, Amazon Prime, they get it now in 2 days. But I never hold inventory.
But do you have to pay
Amazon's
for shipping?
warehouse is yes, you do have to pay for shipping.
Okay.
So you're
And how
paying
much is that typically?
it depends. So that I mean, 315 is my landed cost, so that's essentially including shipping. But
That's including shipping to the end, the
correct.
purchaser?
Yeah. So I mean, usually
Okay, and then
you're
there.
looking at for about 2,000 units, it could be a dollar a unit, so about $2,000 on top of your purchase order.
Okay, and then you're
Depends on
selling
the product because it depends on the weight, size, all that good stuff.
and you're selling for $25, and they take 15 points, so it's whatever that is, $3.25. No, $3.75.
So essentially make anywheres from
18 bucks, 17 to $18
yeah, but then you
minus
gotta
ad spend.
so yeah, minus ad spend, and then so you're paying Amazon the 15% right off the top for your
Right.
sale price, okay? Then you're paying Amazon to store it for you.
Okay, well, how much of this is like, and this is more so for anybody that's watching this and interested in doing it. How much of this is cash that you have to take out of your wallet, and how much of it is, oh, we're just going to take this out of the $25 that the purchaser paid? Does that
Yeah,
make sense? The
so
buyer paid.
yeah, so cash up front, I mean, you're covering your purchase orders, right?
Well, more so my question is like inventory and shipping, and then we have to wait for Amazon to pay out whenever they pay out. I never received a check from them because I just published that like 30
Mhm.
days ago.
Yeah.
So, like, are you having to buy 10,000 units for 10 grand, or like, what's the barrier to entry for something like this?
Yeah, so I mean, it's like I was saying, so money going out, you're paying your purchase order, so depending on what product. I always tell first-time sellers, find a landed cost product that is no more than 5, $6. Like, you do not I mean, I personally do not suggest it because it is a lot of cash up front before you're even making anything, and then now once you start understanding cash flow, right, for now consecutive orders moving forward, I would really recommend to not really move forward with a product more than $5, $6 landed.
So the products are it's gonna be something that you can find at Target, size products, I would assume, right?
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
you
it's
you can imagine, like, I mean, there's so much stuff that you can do in every single category. My suggestion is keep it small enough that it can fit in a shoebox less than 4 pounds. If you can really find a product that is about 5 no more no more than 5, $6 landed, so that's the cost of the product plus shipping, right? And then I would say buy about 1,000 units to really start. If you can go 500 based on the supplier and what the product is on, like, the minimum order quantity, do the 500. Don't do more than, like, 2 variations, right? So a variation being, like, if it's a product that has 2 different
a
colors, so like a
SKU,
mug
yeah.
exactly. So we might do, like, a black mug and a blue one. My
Not pink,
suggestion
white,
correct.
red.
No, exactly. So, like, don't go more than 2 variations, 1 single product.
Okay.
And from there, I mean, you really can get, like, a purchase order in for like around $10,000 easily. And then what you're gonna do is advertising is going to be the biggest hurdle because on Amazon, advertising is everything. It is a lot less expensive though to advertise on Amazon than it is on like Facebook Meta, which is a lot more competitive, which is a completely different business model.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, it's funny you say that 'cause I'm not familiar with Amazon or selling on Amazon or advertising on
yeah,
Amazon, and so, like, I was like, "Alright, you know what? I'll throw $100 on there just to see, like, what happens." I don't know what the analytics look
yeah,
like, I
yeah.
don't know how they decide, where it's posted and all that stuff, so threw $100 at it. I don't know, I think I sold a few books from it, not much,
Yeah.
but
Amazon will make advertising will make or break if you're trying to sell specifically on Amazon.
so I think it was Amazon. I don't know, we do advertising on several things, but, like, is that the one with the bidding? I think I set a bid price, and it was like 75 cents or something like that.
Mhm, okay.
And it gives you the option to change it, but I didn't know, like, I don't want to overspend for, these slots or whatever. So, do you guys do that?
So I completely outsource my advertising,
Oh, okay.
which I definitely suggest. And this kind of segues me back to like when I first started selling. Advertising on Amazon specifically is a beast in its own. Don't get like deterred by it by any means. There are so many, even to just like VAs, especially in the Philippines, right?
Yeah.
Like there's so many experts that really just hone in on Amazon advertising. But I promise if you make the investment in hiring an agency that knows what they're doing or um, a VA to really structure your campaigns, because this is where I just wasted money trying to do it on my own when I first started. And I think I started in December 2020 with selling, and it was crickets until I think like March of 2021. And I was selling 0. I would check in on my Amazon app, 0, maybe 1 every so often. I get so excited, right? If I would sell 1 here and there. And I just told myself I did not work this hard over the last like year and invest so much time and money without knowing. And if the advertising thing is the one barrier to entry that like, at this point, like I have to know. So I gave myself a number. I was like, I'm going to take a credit card out and I'm going to interview advertising agencies. And I know that I'm going to pay a $2,000 retainer plus ad spend. But I know that if I don't do this for myself for at least 2, 3 months, then I'll never know. And then I'll keep wondering, like, what could have been, right? Type thing. So I did. I hired one of the biggest agencies at the time, and it was a $2,000 agency fee plus ad spend for a single product. I think I would recommend for people to spend or know to expend anywhere from 100 to $150 a day. So you're looking at a little more than $3,000 a month in ad spend. So now we're at about 5K a month, right? So that's what you can expect for advertising. And I told myself I'm going to give myself 3 months. That's $15,000 I do not have. I will figure it out down the line. I'm going to take a 0% 12-month, whether I make this up in commissions down the line. I'm not gonna worry about it right now, which, again, maybe just being too naive or taking a risk, I don't know, but I just needed to do it for myself, and all of a sudden, 2 weeks in, I was selling 5 a day and then 10 a day, and for anyone that knows, like, Amazon, if you can get a product that is selling at least 10 units a day at, that kind of meet, obviously, like, your numbers and the margins, like, you have a winning product. So, and it just really happened a lot quicker, and then the 10 turned into 15, and then to 20, and then to 25 a day, and then 50 a day, and then before you know it, I was selling over 100 units a day of this same product, and I took essentially this business, right, where I wasn't selling anything to a seven-figure business selling dog food mats in about 10 months.
Okay, so if for basic math here, it costs you 5 grand a month in ad spend per product. You're making
And Amazon deducts that from your payout. So this is not money that you're paying Amazon for your advertising. It's getting deducted from, your sales.
oh, okay, so you just had to pay the 2 grand to the
So yeah, so you're
agency.
yeah, so I mean, you're still paying it on the back end, but, like, if you are selling from ad sales, right, Amazon is holding on to that.
5 grand, then you're making, let's just say $15 per product. You'd have to sell 300 pieces,
You would have to sell, I'm sorry?
333 units
Or
to break even.
correct. And so this is yeah, it was fun. And then even with, like, the dog mat, right? That was just one print file that I used. And so I'm like, "Okay, we're gonna do the next cool design," which, is now still my top seller is the mud cloth one, but it was, again, the simplest design, and it still is my number 1 seller, but I
Is
got
it the diamond looking one?
it's gray and white.
Gray and white.
Got, like, gray and white lines.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. Super simple, just, like, a very neutral, kind of, like, bohemian pattern, and at the
Like
time
that thing?
yeah, well, that's, the cross the line one, but it's to the right, that one right there, which is wild. So, yeah, we have a few variations now, large and small. Honestly, just the dog mats alone have, like, done tremendously well. When I saw that level of success, though, I got really excited.
Mhm. You
And
doubled
I was
down?
like, "I'm going to now do this product, and this product, and this product," and I had no idea what I was doing, and for anyone that understands cash flow, which I didn't, I thought that every single product that I launched was gonna be kind of the similar success and just learned very quickly that that is not how you scale and grow a business, and you do not go an inch deep and a mile wide. It's very much when you have a winning product, double down on that product, master a platform, so master Amazon, and then take that same product, now let's go meta. Then when you become an expert at meta on that one product, now we go to TikTok Shop, right? Then become a master on that one product, TikTok Shop. Then after all 3 have been really mastered, then you start your next product. So that would be my, I think, words of wisdom from wasting a lot of money and kind of going through this whole process, especially with, like, selling product online, but I always kind of relate it back to it's kind of like the in and out model.
You kinda sounded like a drug dealer there when you said you're selling product.
Oh, selling product. I was like, "What did I say?" But,
That's interesting. Yeah, it's a business that or a space that has always kinda scared me
mm,
because, again, I'm trying to say this delicately.
yeah, go
Um, I feel like there are a lot of scammers in this space.
mhm,
At least that's how I felt whenever I went through it, right? I mean, if I look up the company that I almost gave 50 grand to, they're no longer in existence.
yeah,
And the ones that we interviewed to make sure that we didn't do anything stupid with this company, the other ones that we interviewed also no longer in business.
mhm,
And my experience with the VAs or, the independent contractors on Fiverr, really bad. Like, the website that they made was shit. They were the expert to guide you through what products to sell and blah blah blah. And I didn't have a good experience in that either. So, what is different about you guys? Is it more curated? Is it in-person meetings, or is it Zoom meetings, or is it, yeah, like what's different with you guys? Because I really am genuinely interested in this space, but I've just always been very like, because I've been burnt, like I need to be sure
Yeah.
before I drop money on that. And part of the challenge is that I've always been one to do a small experiment. And if the experiment works, then I'll, open up the fire hose, I guess, right? And yeah, I just didn't have that success in that small experiment. And so I guess my ultimate question is, do you feel like you got lucky with the dog mat, or do you think that you can duplicate that with another product? I assume you have, but
Yeah. I can definitely duplicate it. It just depends on the product. So I think what most people don't realize is there is a science that goes behind finding the product to sell. And a lot of people, friends, family, whatever, they're like, "Oh, I wanna do what you're doing. Like, I have this amount saved. Like, I have this great idea for a product." And it's always how the conversation starts is like, "I have this great idea. It's never been done before." And that's kind of the biggest issue, right? So there's a lot of softwares out there that can really reverse engineer keywords to see what products are selling and in what categories, who your competitors are, how much they're selling for. But what you want to do is actually find a product within a category that is being searched a ton with the least amount of competition. There's an incredibly there's like just a lot of research that goes into doing this. When I purchased that program back in 2020, they really taught you how to do it, but it was like being taught manually. It was kind of before a lot of these more softwares became available to be able to do this. And so I had my spreadsheet out, I watched my video, I kind of learned how to do this and start really again, manually, what I was doing is tracking all of these competitors and what their BSRs were at the time, which is like called your bestsellers ranking, and really kind of seeing how competitive they were in the space, what their price points are, and just kind of doing your own risk analysis. But I would always suggest for new people kind of coming into the space, do your research first. Um, and make sure you're not picking a product that no one can find. Right? So if you have this great idea for this product that's never been invented before, how is someone supposed to find it? So what you wanna do is actually have a single product that has a lot of keywords. So for example, dog food mat, cat food mat, dog food mat under food and water bowl, waterproof dog food mat, waterproof cat, like so many keywords for a single product that I can now advertise on that has high search volume across the board. Right? So I need to now see what all this like search volume is for every single keyword. If your product only has like a few keywords, the likelihood of you selling a lot or being found is slim to none. Right? So there are certain things to really consider before starting. And then also too, when creating a product, really have a good understanding of branding, design, quality, sourcing the product. There are a lot of pieces to this puzzle of starting an e-commerce business. I just happen to, I think, have a good understanding of aesthetics and packaging, and I actually like the design concept. And in my previous jobs, I worked a lot on the digital marketing side, specifically with designers. But I will say that your key pieces would be finding an incredibly good designer. And so this is going to be that designs packaging, that designs your website, that can design really kind of the direction of where you're gonna go with photo shoots that are gonna be used for advertising. Now we have, like, the beauty of AI where a lot of this can actually be done for you, which is an incredible time to, like, start a business if you know what you're looking out for. right? So I would say like an incredible designer, and then as you're sourcing the product, you are going to obviously know quality, right? When you start receiving samples. But once you now have great packaging, you have a great product, now we're gonna create those, like, content images, and everything now is content. Content, content, content. So now instead of just selling a product on Amazon, you need to have your own website. You need to have some sort of social media following. So really kinda starting the product. You're doing this full scale, and I think that people that got burned on Amazon are not considering literally starting a product line from the ground up, but tackling every single aspect. Website, email marketing, social media, like have some sort of following because I'm a consumer and I know a lot of your followers and you as well are a consumer that when I'm looking at purchasing and researching a product, I'm going on Amazon. Then I'm actually looking at their social media accounts. How many followers do they have? Right. And that's before I even purchase a or make a purchase on their actual Shopify website. Right. So I think you really need to cover all aspects, but only focus on a single product, but do everything right, not just kind of like pray and spray strategy.
Right. So your platform is Spotify.
You mean Shopify?
Shop
Yeah,
Spotify. Oh, that's
the
music.
music one. So yeah, so we I
No,
mean,
there's just an API connection with Amazon to host your products there.
so I have a 3PL warehouse. So any of my Shopify orders get fulfilled by my 3PL, which is in LA just for overflow. Right, so but you can sync it, your Amazon, with a integration called WebB, which does take a higher percentage than if you have a 3PL, but there are ways to use your Amazon inventory to get shipped out if a purchase is being made on your website.
When I look at different kind of companies that you can start,
Mhm.
so I started a commercial insurance brokerage, and I wouldn't consider that a starter business. You know, like a rookie business. There's all kind of licensing that goes into it. There's all kind of software that is required and relationships that need to be developed and established and appointments that you need. And there's not many workarounds in doing a good job. Whenever I looked at this, my assumption could be wrong, but my assumption was, hey, this is a great little starter business. I don't think that now after going through it. But is that how you would characterize it as a, hey, this is a great starter business? You could, where it can start as a side hustle and ultimately become your full-time thing, right? Because if you start an insurance brokerage, it takes up 80 hours a week minimum. 100-hour weeks you're working. You don't have time for side hustles. You don't have time for to mess around. And if you don't put that in, you will fail. 100%. You'll
Mhm.
fail. Is this something that you can kind of dabble in on the side and kind of transition into being an entrepreneur by doing this?
Absolutely.
Or is this something that takes up, like, this is a 40 plus hour thing? So I feel like that's where I may have messed up, is that I don't have the time. I don't have the time to source things. I don't have the time to review prints and, come up with marketing strategies and stuff like that for a single product when, you know, I have $1 million policy renewing or a $5 million policy renewing, and I need to drive up to LA, and I have, dozens and dozens of employees that also come to me for stuff. Like, how I'm trying to find the path of least resistance to get into this space. Is this something like, hey, if I find an operator that can dedicate their time to this, where we could pay them a base salary and then they're some sort of commission based or performance based pay on top of that, is do you think that's something that we could ultimately do if somebody was totally dedicated to it 40 hours a week?
100%. I think yeah, you have to find the right team that knows what they're doing, and I think in this space, like, everyone will oversell you, and it's wild, even on advertising, like, people want all these agencies wanna oversell, they wanna take a percentage of your sales, like, all this stuff. I've been screwed over by all of them, and it's interesting now because my husband, this is what he does primarily, with helping specifically men and first responders build online businesses for their products, mostly to give more of that additional income, but also learning a new skill set to where if you did eventually want to make this something full time after you're learning the process, right? Then obviously you can kind of scale and grow it or continue to keep it as just an additional source of income. So,
So give me an idea of that. Let's talk about the economics for a second.
yeah.
Then I have another question too. Well, actually, sorry. Let's talk about the economics second. What should somebody already have? What should they bring to the table for this to be successful? And you can speak in generalities. I'm not going to hold you to any of this, but how much money do they need? What sort of attitude should they have? What sort of expectations? What sort of time commitment? You know, do they need space to,
Mhm.
keep inventory, or what kind of education do they need? Because you did mention that, hey, you should probably have an eye for design, or,
Yeah.
some sort of a little bit of a creative aspect about you. But if you could package that up, like what are some things that people need to bring to the table? Like, hey, if you don't have 10 grand, this probably isn't for you. Like, continue to go kick ass on what you're doing, and whenever you get to 10 grand, come talk to me. Or, hey, I have an hour a day. Like, all right, that's just not going to work. What are some of those requirements?
So for something like this, I understand like a lot of people want to do, it's always a side hustle, right? But I think for something like this, if you're going to take it seriously, this is a side hustle that you are deciding that what hypothetically, when this becomes successful, that this is something you are going to pursue seriously. It still could be not a full-time job, right? I think most people want to be entrepreneurs because they want to have that time freedom, which is always interesting too, because I think now as an entrepreneur, I spend more time really kind of building, growing, and doing the things. But I think in my mind, it just needs to be taken seriously. This is not something that you're frivolously going to do. And also know that you are going to be building a business. So if you are okay with learning the fact that I am learning a new skill set and I am going to understand and build e-commerce, right? Not necessarily paying someone to do this for you. I don't think in any aspect of business that you should ever pay someone to do something for you, especially like never sign contracts you don't understand. Like always know what you're doing, at least a small bit in each kind of department. But I would say if you're first starting out, genuinely about 4 to 6 hours a week of like full focus time, you can really launch a product within 6 months comfortably, okay? And that is assuming that you are really taking this seriously for 6 months. 4 to 6 hours a week, comfortably, I would budget 20 to 25,000 if I were to do this all over again. Assuming we're kind of creating a product within the numbers that we've talked about earlier, which is again landed no more than $6 a unit, especially for a first time product. For someone that's maybe has some experience in the past, I would then say upwards of like $10, $12 landed if this is not your first product. Or if you do have the means to maybe double on a product that is going to be sold at like a 50 to $100 price point as opposed to like 25 to 50.
Okay, so this isn't a couple day thing.
No, 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 no. Yeah.
Like, hey, I can draw something up on Canva and splat it on a mat and then post it on Amazon. It's not a couple day thing.
I would not go in with that attitude at all.
Got it. I went in with the wrong attitude.
Yeah, this is very much something that I mean, if you know what you're doing, you can rinse and repeat this so quick. And that's where I think like my confidence is like I can really come in with and I just like doing it from products of my own, which kind of segues us I think maybe to like the VC conversation because all I need is just I mean, essentially the access to capital to kind of really act on concepts, bring them to market, and then you can now start selling off these um, small brands that you've built over a 2-year period and have that
I'll give you
experience.
some money to
Let's do it.
do it for me as long as I
But
get a piece of it.
this is kind of the fun part. It is definitely something I've had a lot of learning lessons, which I've made a lot of very expensive mistakes through this, and I would also suggest for anyone out there, like, if you wanna do this, find someone that's already done it before and ask them, like, their war stories because you can learn from them so quickly, and I feel like I've had my highs and then definitely got hit by a truck.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. You know, I don't think that I would invest in anybody that hasn't been hit by a truck, you
Yeah.
know?
And that truck came in full speed all of last year and was a very big transition, but,
Mm. Okay, so that's a good segue to the economics. 25 grand.
Mhm.
I have $25,000. Don't worry about what's in it for you. If I give you $25,000, what sort of returns should I expect? Generally speaking, again, not going to hold you to this. I know everybody's different. Depends on the product, blah, blah, blah. Just
Yeah.
lie to me. Tell me if I give you 25 grand, what should my expectations be? If you're the one doing the work, you know what you're doing,
Mhm.
what should the expectations be?
Yeah, so
And
of course. So I think with like a 25K budget, sourcing product, keeping it within that $6 price point, I would say you're selling I wouldn't now wanna sell anything less than 29.99, so depending on what that product is. So let's say roughly 32.99. The goal would be to launch within a 6-month period, and the goal would then to be for the first 2 to 3 months, sell about, like, 10 units a day at around, like, 32.99, right? So that would be kind of the goal at a 20% profit margin, and then from there, we can probably start refining a little bit.
20% more. Okay, so a lot of money is going into ads.
A lot. Well, I mean, you should be coming out of the yeah. I would say anything from, like, a 20 to 25% profit margin.
All right, well, that's $6 and 60 cents per unit that you're taking home. Quick math.
Mhm. You got the calculators out?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then from there, I'd say after that 3-month first starting point, then we're gonna get Rampway, and then we're gonna sell between 25 and 50 a day.
Okay. Yeah, because here's my challenge is that and maybe I'm conflating some stuff here. So the 25 grand is part of what is getting eaten away in the profit margin, right?
That's your inventory. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not just commission.
No, no, no. The 25,000 is purchasing for is budgeting for your product and for some of advertising.
Okay. Oh, let's see here. 99, 25K divided by 32.99. All right. About 800 units. Less than 800 units. Okay, well that's doable.
So you're making about, let's see, making about 10 grand revenue per month for the first, like, 2, 3 months, and then the goal would be around 3, month 4, where we're now selling about so we're hitting around, like, a 50K revenue threshold around, like, month 3, month 4, and then I wanna scale from 50 units a day to, um 50 to 100 at, like, a 32.99 price point. So you're now roughly between, like, 80 and 100K revenue months. Uh, again
So say you get into like week or month 6 or 7 or month 18 or
Mhm.
20. If you completely cut off ad spend, would is there any point where you can scale back the ad spend? I guess is it a simple formula for generally speaking, if I put this much money into ads, this is how many units I sell? Or is it, I need to get the word out and people to fall in love with the product and they tell their friends and there's word of mouth and organic type of spread, then I can cut off I don't have to spend so much on billboards and, the ad spend. And then my profit margin goes from 20% to, over 50% probably.
So Amazon's a tricky game. I will say it. Amazon has what's called as like a BSR, so bestsellers ranking. So this is where you sit within the Amazon algorithm. Everyone wants to get on page one. But there are certain things that you need to do to get on page one, which at the very beginning, you do need to invest money. Also, a lot of external traffic. So let's say you have like an Instagram post, right? And then you have a link on that post that now redirects to your Amazon storefront or like an affiliate link. Amazon will incentivize you, right, from that sale, and you actually get like a 10% rebate. Okay, like essentially kickback.
If you're
But
driving traffic to Amazon
correct, but
from a different
now you're starting to rev the engine a little bit. So now once Amazon starts seeing external traffic coming to your Amazon listing, you are now getting boosted within the algorithm. So now your BSR or your ranking is now increasing, which means organically you are now selling more units versus paid ad spend. And for a lot of these products that holds the first 10 positions on Amazon, their organic ranking is a heck of a lot higher than someone that's maybe on position 30 that needs to get more ad spend, right? So the beauty at the very beginning is to actually invest more into your placement within the algorithm, which again, you can pay for. Once you're now within like that top 20, you can start getting organic ranking without spending as much ad spend, right? But then you need to be very careful about stocking out because the second that you stock out on Amazon, what happens? Your ranking completely drops. So everything that you just spent a lot of money and time on keeping that, which then now segues me to cash flow. So cash flow is so important to make sure that we're keeping up with inventory and having kind of these cycles already strategically thought through, which when I first started, I had no idea that this was a thing, or I started selling and I didn't realize I was going to sell as much, which I didn't know that it's now a 3-month ramp up for supply chain and then cash flow and then making sure you're not losing your rankings here, right? So Amazon is very tricky. And so finding people that know what they're doing is so important because you can waste a lot of money playing this game. And I have. I have wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars and then gotten a very nasty lawsuit.
Really?
That was the truck from last year. So, which, yeah,
Can we
segues me
talk about
into,
that?
yeah, I guess we can. I mean,
What kind of lawsuit?
so when I first started this, I had no idea what I was doing. And I was introduced to a friend during the summer of 2020 that was like, "Hey, Linz, what's going on? Like, what are you up to?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm learning Amazon and how to sell product online and it's going super well." And this friend was like, "No way. You should meet so and so. He's been doing it for 10 years and he sells millions every year." Back to our scam conversation, which you are not wrong. And this was a friend of a friend that introduced me to this individual and ended up speaking with them. "Hey, this is what I'm doing. I've never done this before. Like, sounds like you've been selling on Amazon for quite some time. Love to take you out for coffee, pick your brain, blah, 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 do the thing." And I mean, I just kind of asked a lot of questions just to make sure I was doing things right. So just kind of almost getting validation from the fact that, like, hey, I'm learning this. Am I crazy for just taking these steps?
Okay, so, spammer. This is
Oh, yeah.
the juicy stuff. All
Oh,
right,
man.
the spammer, because
So
I can relate to this. Not that I'm a spammer, but I've dealt with them.
this is wild. So again, I'm very naive. I had met this individual and it was mostly that I just wanted to get validation that like, hey, I'm doing these steps. Like, is this aligned with like what you would also recommend? So very much just like a validation. Like I built this entire company on my own and when I kinda took the leap with that, like, $15,000 credit line and was gonna start advertising, then he actually, like, saw, I think, the success or knew that, like, "Holy shit," like, I know any product that, like, once you start hitting these metrics and you're, like, getting this momentum, that, like, it's essentially a winning product, right? Like I said, anything over 10 units a day, if you're hitting your numbers, it's a great product. It's better than, like, having, like, almost like a second property, right? For, like, rental income. You're actually making more money. And he had seen this and was like, "Holy shit, I've had so many friends, family, whatever, ask me how I do or how I have, created product lines and done this whole thing," which he never really created anything, which is another conversation. But he's like, "I've never seen someone actually do it, like, from start to finish. Like, you should be proud of yourself, blah, blah, blah. How about I be a financial interest in your company and you do what you do best and just keep creating product and literally your dream of doing all this for what you love doing best, and I will just be like a financial backing." And so that conversation segued into, I think, him owning something like 30% or whatever for being a financial interest. Long story short, got into a very bad business relationship with this individual. Yes, he did finance a few purchase orders, and at the time, we were selling very well, and he was like, "I've always had this idea of doing an agency, and I feel like between you and Sean, which is my husband, you guys have been so self-taught through all of this that maybe we start really kind of going along that thing." So, we started the agency side for about, I'd say, 6 months to a year, and we were working with, like, a few brands. One of the brands was my husband's close friend who she patented a necklace. It's called a ring holder necklace, and she actually holds, like, the utility patent on it, and she had been selling at a very high price point, and she's like, "You know what? I will do a licensing deal with you guys. You guys create the product, and then we can sell from, like, 49 to 79 more in Amazon impulse buy." That whole line started just scaling. I think the profit margins were 80% and they were bringing in like 100, $150,000 a month within like the first 2 months. And so everyone just, I mean, him especially, got incredibly greedy. Long story short, because this is a very long story, he just kind of went a little radio silent. And if you know anything about Amazon, it's essentially a login that you have, and you have full access to payouts, bank accounts, etc. And this is now where he also stopped making purchase orders, was kind of sending messages, "Hey, we have these POs coming up. How are we getting these financed?" And then it was just excuse after excuse after excuse. And I told my husband, I was like, "This is not good." Um, anyways, I don't want to get into all the details. Long story short, purchase orders were not made, blocked my husband out of kind of a lot of our all of our client accounts, and so we couldn't get any money coming in because he was changing bank accounts going directly towards him. So, yeah, and this was a lot of money coming in. Anyways, found out he was a convicted fraud, had a judgment against him against the FTC, and for a previous kind of scenario where he was doing, like, student loan scams and had him and a business partner at the time, I guess, like, had stolen millions of dollars of people's money, essentially scamming people, and I don't know if anyone knows a lot about lawsuits. They are very expensive, and things are not black and white, and at by this point, too, the amount of money that was owed back to my husband and I, not necessarily just based off of monthly payouts, but now the loss of this business. Right? So, ended up filing a lawsuit against this individual, dragged out for over a year. I don't think people realize that it can cost, like, I mean, we were paying $10,000, $20,000 a month for attorneys, That's like you go into this, you're like, "No, no, no, this is very black and white. Like, we will win." And the text messages and the essentially, um, going against operating agreements, and it's very black and white with the evidence that you have, but even if you collect a judgment, it's if you can collect. And this individual had a lien on his house, didn't have a fricking dollar to his name. We were so convinced that, like, he's making money somewhere, but where is it going? So we hired a forensic accountant or a forensic accountant, I think is what these folks are called, and they're doing kind of full background checks on all of his bank accounts, following the money, all of this, and he was doing just that. He was literally opening up businesses and Amazon accounts in other friends' names, right? And so it was it was completely wild, with the, what was actually happening. Even from the forensic accountant, we found out that financials were getting sent to mom, and we had proof. But at the same time, we're also paying tens of thousands of dollars every month before we even get to trial. So you have to keep that afloat, and you're mentally exhausted. You're trying to keep something that you've built going, and you can't like afford to like keep the business going, plus pay for life, then pay for like all this money going out for a lawsuit. And I'm like, this like hole needs to get plugged somewhere. And so it was kind of deciding like, do you continue on with going to trial knowing that you can't collect anything? Right. And then even if we did get the judgment and then we have proof that mom's getting money, now you have to file against the mom to now get that money, which can be another 2 years. So you're 5 years in, spending all this money going out and you're getting nothing. And we ended up, long story short, having a settlement, which I can't talk about. But it was a very expensive learning lesson. And I think now moving forward in business, I've had to recoup a lot, but also a lot of learning lessons. So for any entrepreneurs out there, definitely do background checks. Have 2, 3 attorneys doing, overlooking like operating agreements and really kind of structuring these relationships, but like also make sure you really know who you're getting into business with. Um, like
But when
even
you do find the right person,
yeah,
though, it's equally as rewarding.
and I hope so. And I feel like I'm at the very point right now where I'm actually deciding for this new project that I'm working on that's like 90% done, like if I'm bringing outside capital in and then working with either an investor in the space or trying to bootstrap this on my own, which ideally like I can do, but having access to capital can grow and scale a lot quicker. But I've been a little wounded here, so I understand it's almost like dating, right? Just because I got in a bad relationship doesn't mean I'm never gonna date again, but it's been a very long, I think, like, 2 years to try and recoup, and then that's kind of like during that lawsuit time, I was very much trying to figure out, like, "Oh my god, I think I need to get another job." Like, I really do, but I knew at the time, I was like, "I'm not gonna just take a job and not learn nothing." Like, I'm gonna take a job that is now going to leverage and catapult me to that next level. And then that's when I really kind of decided to work for Bridger for, kind of a short term and
Fun
at
lunch,
Fun Launch, correct?
which is how we met.
Yeah, which is how we met. So and it's been the biggest blessing, and it's interesting how all the pieces of the puzzle start really lining up. And for most people that don't really understand, like, investment fund structuring, I mean, investment funds are the most lucrative form of doing business. This is what, like, the billionaires are playing in just kind of this, like, next level that I think most people don't really understand, like, leverage at its finest, and I didn't before I even started this job. But I knew that, like, if I'm going to wanna be in a position where I am, selling businesses or acquiring businesses or really kind of getting more involved on like the VC side to really understand and know what you're doing. But there are just different rules to the game. And I went into this whole thing that like I'm getting paid to learn something, also helping someone and meeting incredible people along the way. And that's exactly what happened.
Well, I'm sorry that you had to go through that, but I think most roads to success are filled with potholes and hurdles and difficulties, and it makes you appreciate the good times even more when you've experienced the bad times.
Mhm,
And when you do find a good partner, it is equally as rewarding as frustrating the other situation was,
mhm.
right? Like I have an amazing partner, and he works harder than I do sometimes, so which is nice, right? Yeah, but sorry you had to go through that. That sucks.
Good. But I've learned a lot. And then without that too, I think like you're forced to grow very quick. So I think both my husband and I, especially my husband, I mean, I've never met someone that has been able to move so quickly, like learn something and then implement very quickly.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I listened to a podcast that he was on.
Oh, did you listen to it?
Yeah, well, most of
Okay.
it. And one thing that I noticed that I respected
Hmm.
was that he jumped in with both feet
Oh yeah.
on this thing, and which that's what this whole podcast is about. Is about jumping in and committing and like burning your boats.
Hmm.
So when the Spanish conquistadors went on their conquests, they would they conquered all the land around them, and then they had to take to the ocean, to take to sea to get to new land to
Hmm.
conquer. And when they landed at new land, all the generals burnt all the boats, and all the soldiers are like, what the hell are you doing?
We're gonna make this work.
They said, we either win or we die. There is no retreat. And I feel like there was a burning of the boats moment for you and your husband, or your husband listening to his podcast, that he just jumped in with both feet. Like, hey, I quit my job. This is what I do. And the only option is success. And so I respect the hell out of that.
I mean, and that's kind of like full circle. I mean, even when we first started, it's like if you want to do this, you have to decide you're gonna do this and then move forward. This is not decide if it doesn't work out, like, I'm gonna, like, go back. Like, if you know that you're gonna have a fallback plan, like, I think naturally you're just gonna fall back. And so that's why I think for people too that are like, "Oh, side hustle, all the things," you're like, "Yeah, like, you can see success, but, like, do you want to do this?" And I would encourage you that if this is not something that, like, actually brings some level of, like, excitement into your life, find the thing that does excite you and then double down on that. And it's not this like, "Oh, I'm gonna start an online business that, like, I know makes money."
Yeah, one foot on the dock and one foot on the boat,
It's not
like
gonna
never
work.
ends well.
It's never, and if it's not in your heart, that's okay. There's something that probably is, right? Whether it's, like, real estate or starting an investment fund or, like, whatever, but, like, pick the thing and just, like, dedicate, like, at least I would say, like, a year. Like, do it for a year every single day, have some level of, like, touch point on it. Whether you're watching a 5-minute tutorial to learn something about the thing or, like, a 30-minute. But as long as you, like, check in every day and you kind of hit that thing, you're now past, like, the 20 hours of, like, understanding and learning something, which I think is what considers you to be an expert, right? Like, it's
1,000
like,
hours.
is it 1,000 hours? Alright. But I know, I think for, like, most people, though, it's, like, 20 hours worth of just, like, spending focused time on something is where you kind of make that first threshold or you break through.
21 consecutive days creates a habit.
Correct, yeah. So,
Hmm.
it's been, it's been great to have, like, a partner to, like, do this alongside and be very much on the same page,
Yeah, that's awesome.
which is incredible. Like, we both are very much like, "This is our focus."
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great, and it's rare to be on that much of the same page with somebody. So that's cool. So you guys teach people how to do this, right? Like that's your thing.
So, yeah, my husband primarily. I am involved, but mostly my focus right now is bringing another product to life, which is exciting. But
Can you give us any sort of teaser on
yeah,
that? What is that?
absolutely. Um, so yeah, which one do you want first?
Surprise me.
Okay, so my husband, what he does now primarily is helps men specifically and then first responders, military on creating online businesses. It's called Ecom for Heroes, and it's incredible. I think he's over now like 60 clients or so that he's working with through like a 12-month program. And it very much is for someone that is not only learning this process, but executing their online storefront and product at the same time. So it's very much a build with you program, but also to being able to have access to all the resources specifically that we use. Our designers, our advertising teams, our like everyone that we have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to search for to make sure that our clients are not making those costly mistakes. Right. So very much streamlining this from start to finish. Very similarly to like the Black Card program at Fun Launch, just obviously a different industry, right? And focus. But he's very much doing that. I have a lot of clients specifically on like the product supply chain focus, right? Like how are we really standing out directly from like the very beginning, as well as kind of on the design, right? Like how are we actually getting all of our content so that we can now launch the product? So we do work synergistically, but a lot of my focus now is obviously working still kind of alongside Bridger at Fun Launch, but also to now segueing from a lot on the dog mat side with Nalalas and just some of the products that we're selling to like a reoccurring revenue model. So a lot of what I've learned through this whole process, especially like when you're looking at a lot of these private equity funds that are trying to acquire these smaller brands, what are they looking for? Right. And so this is kind of where I've now really decided to focus on kind of reverse engineering that from the very beginning. Right. So, how do you create a sellable business from the very beginning? And so now, kind of taking what I know now, people are buying dog mats once every year, 2 years, right? Or like full stands, etcetera, right? So this is not something that like we're getting like a reoccurring revenue model on. And so I still wanna stay very much in the pet space. And so this new kind of product line that we're hoping to launch, again, I'm still deciding if I wanna bootstrap this financially or bring in an investor. So it's called Pure Pet
Food.
Supplement.
Pet supplements?
Yes. But
Okay.
different. It's not what you think.
Okay.
So again, and obviously a lot of people are getting in the supplement space. It's kind of like the thing to do, right? But I knew I didn't want to do a powder. I knew I didn't want to do a tablet, right? So like, do you have any? No, not a well, kind of a treat. So no, totally different. So
Lotions. I don't know.
so it is a wellness butter. Okay. So
That you put on the food?
I created this formula. All right. So, you know how dogs love peanut butter?
Yeah.
All right. So, think along those lines,
Okay.
right? So, highly engaged treats for a long period of time. So, are you familiar with like the silicone lick mats? All right. This
You
is
brought one?
I did bring one because I want so this is a silicone lick mat, all right? So it has like suction cups on the back. And what you can do is you can stick this on your like refrigerator or stove or on the floor and it'll stick. And what it does is it actually stimulates dogs. So what you can do is like if you were to put peanut butter, let's say on this, 1 tablespoon will go a very long way. And I'll kind of touch a little bit on this,
Oh,
but
keep them busy for hours.
at least for 30 minutes.
So when I was a kid, I grew up with dogs. We had something called a Hong. Are you familiar with that? Yeah. So I think that's what we gave our dog. We put peanut butter inside the Kong,
And
and
they'll just yeah.
we
Kong's too
would
messy and gross because it kinda gets stuck
true,
in there, which is
but we'd leave it in the kitchen,
Mhm.
and the dog would be there. We'd leave for half a day, come back, and the dog would still be sitting there going away at it.
Yeah.
This is very smart though.
So, okay,
This is awesome.
so these are silicone lick mats. This is the Oasis. So that's the Zen Garden. All right. So anyway, so what the product is, it's going to be sold as a bundle, but for anyone that knows me, I am deathly allergic to peanut butter. Peanuts, I'm that
That's my
person.
daughter.
Yeah, right? We have so much to talk about. But I am deathly allergic to peanuts, and I found out when I was about like 11, and I've never given my dog peanut butter because I'm that allergic. Like anaphylaxis,
Can't even be
hospital
around.
within correct, like within like 10 minutes. So what I did was with these wellness butters, I actually got a patent on the formula.
Good for you.
Thank you. So the base formula is going to be sunflower butter instead of peanut butter. So most people don't realize that peanut butter is actually very high inflammatory, not only for dogs, but for humans.
Do dogs like sun butter though?
They love it. Yeah. So, peanut butter is actually like really high lectins, which is inflammatory. And then there's study after study that shows that when we're bringing in and importing peanuts, that it has high mold. So alpha toxins, mycotoxins, etc. And this is not only for humans, but for dogs. So there's so many studies that actually show peanuts are not good for you at all. And what we wanted to do was create a wellness butter. So the base formula is sunflower butter, which does not have lectins, no toxins, and it has the same protein profile as peanut butter does. And it's safer for dogs to digest, but they get engaged just as long. So the base formula is sunflower butter, pure single ingredient with organic pumpkin and organic raw honey. So that's the base formula, and then I'm mixing a supplement compound in. So we're launching with a hip and joint blend, and then we're launching with an immunity blend. So the entire product is a 3-in-1. The dogs are getting fully engaged. So my dog is a shepherd husky. She's about 75 pounds. 1 tablespoon, she's licking it for 25 minutes.
Okay, and it's good for that kind of dog because they end up having like hip issues later on in
Well, just
life,
like, yeah.
anyways,
I
right?
mean, any dog
Like
that, right?
inevitably, I used to have labs, and they
Yeah.
are notorious for like bad hips whenever they get older.
Yeah, so we have an immunity blend, the hip and joint blend is what we're launching with, and then we're our 3rd runner up is gonna be a probiotic blend, and then a kind of glowing blend for more, like, kinda sensitive skin and allergy.
Okay, so
It's fun, right?
this is awesome.
Isn't it
By
fun?
the way, yeah, it's genius, I think, because anybody that has given their dog peanut butter
Uh-huh.
is instantly gonna understand it.
Exactly.
That's what I like about it. Anybody that has ever purchased a Kong or whatever those things are called, they're instantly gonna understand the product. So yeah, I think that's genius. However, as an entrepreneur, when you say all of these things that you've done,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking of like new entrepreneurs, people that want to start a business, because that's primarily who listens to this kind of thing. That sounds incredibly complex. Like how did you find somebody to experiment with, creating these things? And it sounds very expensive, and patents. Oh my gosh, like what did you spend on patent attorneys and stuff like that? So could you give me an idea of like, hey, like we earmarked 100 grand to get this established, or we earmarked $2,000 or $1,000. Like what kind of monetary investment goes into this amount of effort in securing and creating a product? Because I have no idea. It could be millions, and I
No,
wouldn't
no,
be
no, no, no,
surprised.
no. So, I have bootstrapped this product line from the very beginning, on my own.
Which is awesome.
Thank you. To date, which again, I don't know if I'm gonna get outside funding, but for a product like this, like, you're not holding a lot of inventory. My supplier for the wellness butters is in the US. I mean, I'm literally using all human grade products, and even with the supplements, I'm getting the highest, ISO certified, third party tested facility to be able to do this.
All that sounds very expensive to me.
It's not that bad.
That's great. Like, that
And I
someone didn't
honestly, in this day and age, ChatGPT, wild.
game changer.
Wild, wild, wild. I have no business being in the pet supplement space at all. And I think that even with my formulas, I very much worked with, the folks that I'm working with, that are going to be creating the product, but I'm using various suppliers. I'm using a supplement supplier, I'm using sunflower butter suppliers, I'm sourcing certain things on my own. A lot of it more so is just research on where to find each piece, which again, ChatGPT, this is what I'm looking for this product. What suppliers in the US are there? And you'll get a list.
Okay.
Like, it has
And you
been
just call them up.
literally just outreach. Outreach, this is what I'm looking at doing. Would this be something that you could help with? What are your minimum order quantities? And because it's made in the US, I mean, I can order 500 units at a time for each blend, right? And then the turnaround time is 3 weeks because it's made here.
What is that landed?
So these are so cheap. I found a silicone supplier. These are gonna be a longer leadway, kind of like a 3-month turnaround. So I have to do probably a little bit larger
Meaning that you
MOQ.
put an order in and you receive it 3 months later.
Yeah,
Okay.
so 90-day window. But these ones I'm ordering about 10,000. I'm sorry. These ones I'll order about 5,000 units. I think the purchase order is like 10 grand.
Okay.
Nothing crazy.
So $2.
I think with my with the butters, they're a little more expensive. I think landed, I'm looking at $8 a unit, but it's also a higher price point because it's more of a premium product.
And so the idea is that you sell this in a package.
So there'll be a
They get a
bundle
couple of these and or one of those plus the butter,
plus the wellness butter, which is 28 servings for a dog 25 to 50 pounds.
and that's the recurring revenue for you is that they can continue to buy the butter.
Correct.
They don't need to buy these over and over again.
Exactly, yeah. No, so it'll be like the wellness butters that are gonna be more of kind of the reoccurring revenue product, but it's interesting. I mean, the way that the compounds that I've structured it is because, like, even with sunflower butter, it's very high in omega 6s, which can be inflammatory. Like, we have a perfectly balanced profile of like adding omega 3s to where now it's a perfect anti inflammatory like compound. And then through this whole process, I just was asking friends of friends, like, hey, do you know any veterinarians? Like, whether you know personally or whatever, like, I want someone backing this to know I'm not crazy,
Right.
right? And so the stars aligned and I got introduced to this amazing individual that wants to very much be involved in essentially getting a blessing from a veterinarian and really kind of approving the process,
Expert approved.
not only from like the ingredient standpoint, but like concept as well. And so even with the butters, she's a oh my goodness, I can't think of the word. I'm blanking. What is the word that like a cancer doctor? Oncologist. She is an oncologist for pets and for her practice and what she would love to bring the product in on is almost kind of like for a lot of her patients, well, that just aren't eating or need to really kind of mix medications within maybe more of a butter formula as opposed to like a pill pocket or something like that. And so she's incredibly excited about the product as well. I think we're going to do a variation though without supplements, mostly for collaborations with like veterinarians, groomers, maybe even just, like, doing any collabs out there with, like, airlines when you bring your pet on, like, airlines and, like, fun stuff like that, but that's where, like, my brain will just go wild, and I just, like, am ready to kind of take and push this to market.
And my dad used to put, the capsules or whatever, like, in a hot dog.
Yeah. But it's wild, but even with something like this, they're so engaged long term. It's
You
like,
know?
how can you get your dog to just chill the frick out for 20, 30 minutes at a time?
Okay, so I think this will be beneficial for people that are watching this. So consider me a potential investor. Just
Mhm.
role play here.
Yeah.
And so how much money are you looking for and what are you going to use the money for? And is this a
Yeah.
one-time investment or is this a, every month you need us to cover purchase orders? At what point would the business be able to fund its own purchase orders?
Yeah. So,
Because sorry, going back to the story that you had told about the scammer guy.
yeah, yeah, very, very wounded.
Yeah, well, what I found interesting about that is that the expectation was that he fund purchase orders ongoing. How often is that needed? Because originally, whenever we got into this, I was thinking, oh, we make a one-time investment up front, and then the company kind of stands on its own 2 feet. It can fund its own purchase orders.
Correct. Yes. Oh, and this is kind of the thing. I feel like financially speaking, like I can bootstrap this easily for 50K on my own. Uh, it's just also to being able to manage a few pieces at the same time. I had a lot of money go out last year, but it can be done. Or if I were to bring a partner in, and this is kind of the thing that I'm like struggling with is like, do I bring a partner in, financial and let's say has a skill set on the e-com side, also has a level of success there to
Is that what you're
really
looking
kind of
for?
help scale and grow.
Or are you looking for doors to be opened?
I think
Because as a
I think
VC,
I'm open to the conversation.
okay, because as a VC or a private equity guy, really the value that I bring is universal entrepreneur,
Mhm,
universal business operations. So back office, accounting, HR, marketing, payroll, stuff like that. General
mhm.
universal stuff, no matter what business you own, you have to deal with those things. At general admin stuff. But then also opening up doors, right? We do businesses with hundreds of attorneys and a
Mhm.
lot of insurance companies and a lot of retail stores. We do business with Target and
Amazing.
Starbucks and Tesla and Netflix and all of these companies. Like those are the type of doors that could be opened. I don't know the first thing about e-commerce. The way that we approach investing is we invest in an operator. You know everything about the product. You know everything about your operations. We handle the back office and open up doors for you. Or are you looking for something more so that you still need some guidance in the operations piece or support in the operations piece?
I think for me, I'm open to both conversations. I think financially speaking, and then bringing a financial and then e-com kind of expert that can actually take a load off as well. But I feel like for it to make sense for me, if I were to bring a solely financial backing in, it would have to be, I think, kind of like a minimum of around like 150K to like really get 2 purchase orders under our belt, good amount of,
Mhm.
like, ad spend, like, in marketing for, like, at least a 6-month, like, ramp up. Like, that would be kind of, I think, like, baseline of what we're looking for so that we can do this in such a healthy way. Um, I am very confident that this will be, like, a seven-figure business within the first year. What for me, I think really for Pure Pet moving forward, like, it will be an eight-figure business.
Well, here's my advice, unsolicited
Go
advice.
for it.
If you're looking to offload any
Mhm,
sort of operations piece on that side of the business, hire it.
mhm,
Don't raise money and give away equity. Hire people to help you. take
mhm,
take some of the workload off of your shoulders. If you're looking for doors to be open or just simple money,
mhm,
either take a loan if it's just dumb money.
mhm,
If you're looking for doors to be open, that's worth equity. In my experience,
mhm.
doors are worth equity. Help with labor, hire it. You can hire that. Don't give away equity. That's the most expensive thing that you can give away is
Yeah.
equity, especially if you see any sort of success down the line.
No, absolutely. And so I'm trying to do this without really kind of pulling in, I think, like, any debt this time around. I feel like getting back to a healthy baseline, I think after last year, I'm just like, I don't know if I necessarily wanna go down that road again.
Well, but they're backed by receivables,
Mhm.
right? So I mean, you can get a factor that fronts money for purchase orders. So we see it in the staffing industry
Mhm.
all the time. So people will provide staff of, a couple thousand people, and they will use a factor, that's what they call it, to front the payroll, but they know that their clients are paying them 30 days later or 45 days later. So it's the same thing with this, is that if you have a set formula that, hey, we need this much in ad spend,
Mhm.
and that will generate at minimum this much revenue. So if you have that formula down pat, and there's no, you know, act of God or luck required to generate minimum 10 per day or 50 per day, and the simple maths, then you don't need to give away equity for that. I'm just trying to
No,
protect
no.
you here.
I think you're right, yeah.
Equity it's something that you regret later on, giving away equity.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's lots to still learn. I
Yeah.
think with this, I'm definitely steering more so on the kinda just do it yourself route, but we're getting close to some bigger purchase orders here. But, yeah, it'll just be fun. I think this is such a product too that it's just like, it's advertising. That's it.
Are any of your plans to go into brick and mortar stores, big box
Big box is
stores?
not necessarily though, like I think it sounds more glamorous than it is.
I would agree.
I think the play is 100% own your list, D2C all the way.
But nowadays, like, even Walmart has online only options.
Well,
And
Walmart
Target has online
yeah,
only options, right? They're trying to mimic what Amazon is doing in their own way, where it's not gonna, you don't have to ship it to 10,000 stores of Walmart.
they're
You know,
pulling from your
it's
3PL.
exactly.
You're getting essentially visual representation. That's kind of what's happening right now. I just got for Nala Laws is we got reached out by Chewy, which is incredible. And they really wanna work with select product lines and brands
Mhm.
to get that visibility, but, I mean, I'm going through this entire process with them, and it is extensive because they don't have any infrastructure like Amazon does, where you can really keep everything streamlined and organized. It is very much just like a process, I will say, but very grateful to be even on the platform. But, yeah, they're very much, like, syncing a lot from your 3PL, so as orders come in, it's gonna be directly fulfilled, and you just have, like, a more so a presence on the site. But I know Target's kinda doing something similarly. Walmart Marketplace is the same thing, right? Which I think there's a lot of room for growth there, but yeah, it's
So when you're branding on Amazon,
Mhm.
is it more of a keyword play, or is it a brand growth play? Like, if, the dog walkers get together and they're having coffee, are they going to be dropping the brand name in conversation, or are they going to be dropping keywords in conversation? Does that make sense?
I
Over
think
coffee, are they going to say, hey, I need one of those mats that
I think on
dogs like
Amazon
peanut butter off of?
yeah.
Or is it going to be, hey, have you guys seen the Pure Pet
Yeah,
things?
making it hard to replicate. Find a product that's hard to replicate, which you can do from the very beginning, right? So, like, I did not invent the dog food mat. All I did was use a different type of material and create patterns that are unique to me that I have essentially copyrighted,
And an effective marketing
right?
campaign.
Exactly. And it's just like when you're scrolling down Amazon, right? What's going to pop out? Is it going to be a design focused or whatever? So, do something that makes it hard for China to replicate. So whether you're owning your IP or any kind of design concepts, like make sure you're owning it up front. So that would be my recommendation. Like so for a wellness butter that is going to be in a bundle with a silicone mat, China can make these all day long. They can probably even replicate my design, right? But are they gonna go to the extent of creating, like, their own wellness butter with, like, the cost and the bundle, and you're just
Probably not.
making it harder for room to entry. So now you're making that level harder for room for entry. I also own my own formulas, like creating like patents on the actual formulas so that no one can come in and kind of replicate across the board. So just make it hard or make it different enough that you can maybe get a utility patent or a design patent on something, right? Like my husband always gives this analogy, like everyone's selling like a mug online, but how many people are selling a mug with like two handles online, right? To where you can literally like drink it like this. I don't know. And then maybe instead of me spinning it this way to like have the design, I don't know. But what's going to stand out on the site as we're scrolling down? But it also has high search term volume keywords, right? So I think it's really differentiating. You're not like coming up with a new concept, we're just making it better. And we can make it better really easily, right? With just like a few different tweaks, which I always recommend to people. If you want to sell a product, go to a competitor's listing and read all the 2, 3-star reviews. Don't read all the one stars because they're usually fake. But like read the 2, 3-star reviews and then see what like people would do differently to the product. They're like, oh, this is too short. This is too long. This is too thin. This is too whatever. And then like create the product to fill in the gaps and then make it better.
So interesting. It's like just a
And
world I've never been
that's
in.
the
It's
thing.
like
And I think
physical
so
products.
many people want to create an online business with product and sell product. And I don't think that unless you really have the inherent like desire to create a physical product and like pour a lot of time, effort, thought, and energy, it doesn't necessarily need to be equate like input output hours, right? You can outsource and find a lot of freelancers to do what you're not an expert in. But I think like really having an intention that you are going to create something and bring value to people, not a dollar sign for yourself. Like I'm creating this because like the joy in people's eyes when they give their dog a dog treat and you're just like, "Oh my god, that feeling," right? But now imagine having that feeling for 25 minutes where your dog is just so engaged, but also getting like their supplement profile at the same time, but also having a dog treat and being engaged.
I think it's genius.
It's so
It's
fun, right?
genius. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, even with the patents too, like I really kind of blanketed the market with like doing any kind of nut butter blends with supplements, chia seed butter, coconut butter, like any type of kind of like butter blend that you can do that. And again, like the storage aspect is incredible because this shelf life is, I don't have to use any additives. Like we don't have to refrigerate this. It's been such a fun product to work on. We just now need to execute. But that's kind of just a little sneak peek.
It's awesome. No, I think it's genius. Yeah, as soon as I don't know, it's like that you don't get those moments very often where you're like, oh man, like
It's a fun
that's
product.
genius. Well, I think even the utility of it is genius, not just the fun of it. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I could totally see how peanut butter or sorry, sunflower butter could get wedged in to
Yeah.
those crevices, and this dog is gonna, just not stop trying to get to it, and
And
keep them distracted for a
it's
while.
funny too. Here, I'll show you the packaging. But of the actual wellness butters. The like people love their dogs. They love their dogs just as
That
much
was
as
gonna be my other
they love
point.
kids.
That was gonna be my other point is that you have a stellar customer
You can kind
profile
of zoom
too.
in.
Is that people are crazy about their kids and they're crazy about their pets.
I know.
Oh, this is okay. Yeah, this is probably smart packaging too.
Right?
I mean, these are just like I feel like I give my daughter this, but
You
they're
can
like
eat it.
applesauce.
But like
My
it's
daughter gets packages like this that
you
are like
literally can eat this. This
applesauce.
is literally like human grade, ISO tested, like the same supplements that you are taking that are in your cabinet that are like high level human grade, same supplier I am sourcing from.
And so whenever you were saying this this wellness butter, I was thinking like in a peanut butter jar. I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to dirty a spoon, and then I try to get all the butter off that thing using a spoon on this silicone
Yeah.
mat.
Literally hot water melts it all off. You
But
just
this, you don't need a spoon. You just, yeah, this is
so the green one, as I'm sure you can imagine, goes with the hip and joint one. And then we have the immunity one, the blue one will be bundled. So the packaging is just kind of cohesive.
yeah, no, this is super cool.
Fun
Super cool. What was the compliance? They're not compliant.
certification process.
Yeah, I mean, I feel it. So non-GMO project verified,
Yeah, so the
like all of these, like even the nutrients deal and all that is your supplier kind of doing all of that for you? You didn't have to go to non-gmoproject.org and get verified, did you?
I did not know.
Okay.
So when you're working with suppliers, your suppliers hold these certifications. So for my source for the sunflower butter, their sunflower butter is like certified organic, certified like non-GMO for like certain ones. They already hold the certifications. So I'm sourcing from them. I don't have to do anything, right? All I have to do is request certifications if like I need to upload for whatever reason for reference for customers or for um I'm trying to get NASC verified for this product, which I might not be able to do for the first round when we go live, but for the second batch, essentially it's the highest grade certification for a pet supplement product. But and then this way too, they come and then they'll do like their testing certifications, and then once you pass, you can then utilize like their stamp of approval on your packaging. But that's just going to take a little bit more time. I feel like I can get like the first batch to market and then we can cross that bridge for kind of after the first round, right? Of really testing, getting it to market. But I mean, this product for me is like I've learned so much about social selling over the last few years. And for anyone that really wants to sell an actual product, like be ready to sell on Instagram, to sell on TikTok Shop, to sell and be highly engaged in a following because that is where this is going. This is not 10 years ago where you can drop ship and then sell a product and make like a ton of money.
Yeah, I feel like that's where my mind still is.
Right. And it's like, even with stuff like this, with what you're doing, like engagement and followings, and like, I always now kind of tell folks too, like, your business is a direct reflection of you, where you are in life. So if you don't want to be front facing, and I have had to deal with this so much over the last few years, like everyone's like, why aren't you in all of your content? And I'm like,
I'm more of a behind the scenes kind of guy, anyways.
perfectionist that I'm just like, I would rather like hide behind my dog and take so much content of my dog or of my husband with my dog. But for me being in it, it has, I don't know, it kind of like I guess being in the limelight has never been, like, a thing. I've always told myself, like, "I'm not an influencer, I don't wanna do the thing." Like, I'll kind of, like, get UGC creators into it, but with this product, it's the first time that I think, like, I'm really excited to be a little bit more front facing and then to really start getting more engaged because the more energy you put into something, the more energy you will get out of something, right? It's the laws of the universe. Every input has an equal and opposite, or every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So if you're putting so much time into energy into, let's say, a business, once that flywheel really takes effect, what do you think the output's gonna be? And I think most people kinda go into this, like, I want, like, the least amount of time with the least amount of money with the maximum amount of output, and you're like, you're living in a delusional world, you should not even probably, like, start.
If somebody does want to start, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah. So, for Nalalas, right? I mean, definitely visit our Amazon storefront. It's at Nalalas, and
We'll put all the links in the
oh,
description and
perfect.
I'll have like stuff pop up and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, purepetwellness.com. Hello at Pure Pet Wellness. You can get a hold of me.
Nice.
And
Yeah, on LinkedIn, Instagram,
Yeah, I'm on all the
X,
things. You want all the
all the
handles
things.
or but
You can give them to me and
yeah,
I'll
you
put
can
them in the
find me
description.
on Instagram, LinkedIn, a few of our websites, shoot me an email. I always respond within like 24 hours. But yeah, open to any suggestions or helping anyone out through this whole process or yeah,
Well, it's awesome. Well,
let's talk money with Pure Pet. Of
there you go. Well, thanks for being on Strong Like Bull. Appreciate it.
course. Thank you so much.
Good job.